There are forces of good and forces of evil at work in the world today. What are these forces? Who is responsible for the good? And who is responsible for the evil? Richard ShoffF talks about current events which are rarely discussed by the mainstream media, events that affect us all. This program seeks to identify, to inform, and to equip the believer for what's ahead. Welcome to What in the World is Going On?
Hello, good listeners. This is Richard ShoffF, your host on What in the World is Going On. Program is sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes of Kannapolis, North Carolina. As I mentioned in a previous broadcast, we talked about what happens many times in America has already happened in Europe. Kind of like here in the States, what happens first in California then spreads to the other states. Usually it's not good for freedom-loving people. I haven't seen many instances of it. But here's an example again of what is happening in Europe, and I'm warning you, if they take our Second Amendment rights away, that's the right to bear arms. They will take away our rights to speak. And here in Britain, we have a record of a preacher that was detained for commentary in the United States because he spoke a Christian message. Donald J. Lynn is a planting, pastoral, and evangelistic figure who's been used to ignite the fire of evangelism among believers and to plant churches and parachurch ministries throughout the world. This Canadian preacher was arrested in the United Kingdom for allegedly making homophobic comments. Sounds strange to you? I didn't think so. Anyway, David Lynn, a non-denominational ministry leader and a subject to what appears to be a campaign against free speech in the United Kingdom, was detained for over 20 hours. The preacher was released without a charge filed from Fresh Warp custody base in East London. Lyndon, a Canadian native, was accused of calling a lesbian woman perverse and sinful while preaching at a train station in Barking, England. Kind of thought that was scriptural, folks. I guess, well, you'd be safe if you called them sodomites, wouldn't you? Anyway, David Lynn has been a preacher for 22 years and heads an organization called Christ Forgiveness Ministries with congregation and churches in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. After the arrest, Christian Legal Center, an organization based in the United Kingdom that helps Christians all over the world with issues relating to law and the Christian faith, they aided him with the ordeal. According to Christian Legal Center, and I'm quoting their report, David began preaching at about 1 p.m. outside of the Barking Tube Station. He'd arrived at 3 p.m. with a group of supporters that joined him. He preached about people searching for love in the wrong places, and that it's only through a right relationship with Christ that this deep need can be satisfied. A crowd formed, and David frequently handed the microphone to the onlookers to allow them time to respond to his preaching. It was alleged that Donald called a homosexual lady in the crowd perverse and sinful. He denies this, and video footage captured by the preaching does not substantiate her complaint. Instead, it shows a group of supporters cheering, chanting Jesus, and supporting David throughout the preaching. The atmosphere was more like a carnival than a confrontation. A quote from Christian Legal Center. After the ordeal, David stated, "My vision is to bring the life-changing message of Jesus Christ's love and forgiveness to the world through evangelism. I'm passionate about igniting and uniting the global body of Christ for the evangelical mandate that I want to bring to the message of salvation to the entire world, keeping the focus on Christ and spreading God's love and forgiveness found in Jesus." What happened recently shocked me, and I'm grateful to the Christian Legal Center for responding immediately to my arrest and to helping me avoid being charged. End quote. David Lynn is one of many who've been arrested in the United Kingdom recently. What for? Well, situations surrounding free speech. Recently, a Christian woman and a far-right activist were also detained, and they were banned from the United Kingdom for speaking against Islam. In addition, just last year, another pair of Christians were arrested for speaking against Islam, according to Christian Concern. Incidentally, folks, they took their guns away a long time in Great Britain. They had them register them, and they weren't going to take them. But they're a peaceful, loving nation now, as we pointed out earlier. They don't need guns. They have more crime than New York City, but they don't need to be able to protect themselves. Incidentally, and I'm getting off the subject here, it really galls me. So many of the leaders in the United States that want to take our guns, count the bodyguards around them. If they're government officials, they've got official Secret Service around them. If they're visiting dignitaries from other countries, they have taxpayer Secret Service. Wonder why? If there's no threat, why do these people have to have armed guards around them? But you want to defend yourself, your wife, your kids, your home, your freedoms? They want to take them away. Just tell us who has the guns, the numbers. Then where do you store them? Then turn them in or we're going to arrest you. This is what happened in England. Well, getting back to the subject we were on, Mike Overd, together with another street preacher, Michael Stockwell, they were building a religious aggravated. These two have been convicted of a religiously aggravated public order offense following their arrest in July of 2016. Mike and Michael had been preaching in a Bristol shopping area, that's Bristol, England, and they were responding to questions, objections, and abuse. Video evidence shows Mike being forcibly removed from the area by a police officer. Charges against one of the men were dropped before the court hearing, and 2 days into the hearing, the court decided that there was no cause to answer in relation to one of the other men. However, Mike and Michael were convicted, but they appealed. Mike had been arrested before, but successfully contested the charges against him. This report from Christian Legal Center. The United Kingdom and its forces are increasingly becoming hostile toward those who speak out against issues they disagree with, particularly those who hold the Christian faith. Listeners, first they take your guns. Then they take, following the Second Amendment, they take your right to speak. First the guns, then your right to speak. I'd like to ask you again, what in the world is going on? This is Richard ShoffF. The program is What in the World is Going On? We are sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes.